Welcome back to the HL Global Montreal Soirée. And today I have the privilege, the pleasure of hosting Arshia. How are you doing, Arshia, today?
Great. Very happy to be here. Beautiful event.
Nice, lovely to hear that. Hyperlink, really excited to learn more about what you guys have been cooking. So, from my understanding, this is a prime broker. Could you maybe give me a little more info about what that actually is and what that looks like on the Hyperliquid ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. We're basically a prime brokerage on Hyperliquid. What we do is we route trader flow through one shared non-custodial contract. This allows anyone that uses Hyperlink to save on fees, be much better off economically, and also we offer a privacy layer on top of it for execution purposes. So our traders can save basically more than 70% in fees compared to just standard rates on Hyperliquid. And also another privacy layer on top of it, which is in a trusted execution environment, such that their flow will be pretty much privatized in a sense that if they were to trade through Hyperliquid themselves, every single user around the world can really match a wallet address with their trading activity very easily. But if they do it through Hyperlink, it'll be nearly impossible to do that.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, one, saving on fees, two, adding a privacy layer to Hyperliquid. I feel like those are two huge unmet needs. But could you talk to me a little more about the self-custodial aspect of, degens on Hyperliquid liking to hold their coins? What do you say to them if they want to be using Hyperlink here?
Yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, self custody solves the ownership problem, but not really the execution problem. And on Hyperliquid right now, in my opinion, there has been, this sort of concern that some of the base taker rates for a standard user are slightly higher compared to a lot of, other competitors in the market. And what we do at a Hyperlink, we're not really, solving that ownership problem because it's non-custodial. But on the execution side, we are really trying to provide a professional and sort of like um, a much better trading experience on a Hyperliquid because we really believe in the vision that Hyperliquid has, and we really believe in where Hyperliquid is going in the new future. So we want to be able to bring in a lot of other users from other, decentralized exchanges, even centralized exchanges, to use Hyperliquid for really what it is, instead of them being thrown off because maybe the taker fees are a little bit higher or the maker rates are a little bit higher here.
A cheaper experience on private. Again, I think that's great. That's really wonderful on what you guys are building. You mentioned the word Hyperliquid a lot, and I know you're a data driven guy. So, what kind of metrics are you looking at for Hyperliquid, for its growth in general?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Personally, like over the past few years of like working in data growth, everything related to Hyperliquid, I would say in terms of data, I realized that for decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges, one metric is super important, and that's the volume to OI ratio. And in my opinion, that needs to be always growing 1 to 1 and not the any other way around. Like that volume to OI ratio, the closer it is to 1, that's the best spot to be. But is it also growing in a sense that if volume is going up, is open interest going up as well? In these two in tandem, in my opinion, are probably the most important metrics to see, for example, for Hyperliquid right now, if it's truly growing. Like from some data that I have a few days ago when I checked, HIP3 volume to OI ratio was around 1 to 1. And obviously, it's thanks to XYZ, phenomenal team that have achieved that. And also, we can see that I think, if I'm not wrong, around 50% of Hyperliquid's total OI was HIP3, which is, another metric that really shows how much HIP3 is actually growing as well.
Yeah, and I'm happy to hear that you say it's 1 to 1 ratio, and it is a ratio that is growing
Yeah.
continuously. So it's very good for the health of the ecosystem. You mentioned XYZ as a team, and I know you were actually involved in a hip free deployer yourself, Ventuals. So wondering how that experience has been like. What are some of the learnings here?
Yeah, for sure. Working at Ventuals was an absolutely phenomenal experience because massive shout out to Alvin Shaw, Emily Shaw, and the team at Ventuals. They were amazing coworkers and teammates to work with and build out Ventuals because they were visionaries in the space that really started Ventuals and tried to break a lot of boundaries and decentralized finance and bring pre-IPOs to the market. And what I personally learned from building out Ventuals was there was a lot of learnings, and some of the, I would say, slightly more harsh learnings that I had was that a listing is not market, but a market is the product itself. And if anyone like really kind of like tries to understand this, is that anyone can really come out and raise 500,000 hype, become an HIP3 deployer, start listing markets, but that's not the end game at all. It's what happens really after that, which becomes a true end game, and how you're able to have real two-sided demand for your markets. If there's a lot of more longs, how do you counteract that with incentivizing shorts? If there's a lot of more shorts on one market, vice versa, how do you do it for longs? And there's a lot of other liquidity infrastructure problems that might arise as well once you launch a lot of niche markets with low liquidity, which really requires a lot of effort in terms of managing liquidity, onboarding market makers, making sure the timing is right for a market, and many more things in terms of like catering to your user base. And yeah, I would say these are pretty much the biggest like lessons that I have learned.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say I'm very grateful to Ventuals for pioneering the pre-IPO space. I feel this is a huge space, and now we're seeing TradeXYZ doing it, and Paragon as well doing it pretty successfully. And now we have pre-IPOs, which is huge. You couldn't see that before, right? It didn't really exist. So thanks to Ventuals for pioneering. But as you mentioned, market is the product. So what do you think TradeXYZ is doing so right that gives them so much leadership in this space?
Yeah, I personally think that XYZ has had phenomenal execution since day one, even though they're pretty much directly related to unit, and how spot Bitcoin was so revolutionary for DeFi and Hyperliquid itself. They've had that sort of execution from day one. They've built that trust within like tens of thousands of users trading on Hyperliquid from day one. And people really look at XYZ in Hyperliquid as the North Star of how to manage and build a product. And that's one of the major reasons why people really trust them in trading their markets, providing liquidity for them, and also, helping them grow their brand by doing, marketing for them across, different social media platforms as well. And on top of that, it's just that, once there's a massive brand like this in an industry or in a community or an ecosystem, it sort of becomes much harder for a lot of other companies to kind of like compete with them, because they have a lot of intrinsic demand towards their product that you can't really take away at all that easily. And it would only come from a massive like player coming and breaking a lot of barriers in that community, or that company itself deciding to like shutting down for a lot of reasons. But yeah, that's my personal understanding. Yeah.
Executional excellence, I think, is the reason why Hyperliquid is so successful. So fully
Exactly.
agree with you. Well, thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah.
Go try out HyperLink and enjoy the soiree. On that note, I'm going to end on the catchphrase, which is Hyperliquid.
Hyperliquid for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.